Good evening, I'm Ces Oreña-Drilon.
I'm Pauline Verzosa.
And I'm Shawn Yao.
The big stories tonight. 2 cyclones, 1 LPA, and a persisting habagat. A combination for catastrophe made worse by the possibility that twin cyclones, now inside the Philippine area of responsibility, could join forces for a more potent storm.
Floodwaters are yet to subside in areas affected by the combined effects of cyclones and the southwest monsoon. At least 14 areas, including more progressive cities in the NCR, have declared a state of calamity to get a hold of funds that will speed up response.
And President Bongbong Marcos calls the slight reduction in US tariffs on Filipino exports a significant achievement. But many are saying that the Philippines got the shorter end of the stick, especially since PBBM conceded to zero tariffs on certain American goods.
Disaster officials are reporting 7 dead and massive damage due to the combined effects of severe tropical storm Krising and the southwest monsoon or habagat. That's not counting destruction from cyclones Dante and Emong, which are sweeping northern Luzon. Among the reported fatalities, 2 have been verified. 8 people are still missing, while there are 7 others who sustained injuries.
In all, the National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council, or NDRRMC, estimates around 1.4 million individuals, or more than 400,000 families, affected by the incessant rains and flooding across the country, most of them in central Luzon. The government is also reporting damage to infrastructure worth more than ₱500 million and 323 million pesos in agricultural damage.
We're also seeing more areas declaring a state of calamity due to massive flooding. These are Marikina, Malabon, Manila, Quezon City, and Las Piñas in Metro Manila, as well as the entire province of Cavite, the towns of Balagtas and Kalumpit in Bulacan, Cainta and Montalban in Rizal, as well as Malasiki, Umingan, and Dagupan in Pangasinan. In the Visayas, Cebu City and Sebaste Antique have also declared a state of calamity. In the context of disaster management, this declaration paves the way for the immediate release of calamity or quick response funds to enable local government units to speed up rehabilitation. In areas under a state of calamity, a price freeze is also imposed on basic goods, and loans for affected individuals should be granted at zero interest.
Meanwhile, here's the latest on the multiple weather disturbances affecting the country at the moment. Emong intensified into tropical storm status, and Pag-asa said there's a high chance that it will interact with Dante, which is also a tropical storm. Let's discuss this again with Alvin Pura, News 5's weather specialist. Alvin, di ba nung isang araw lang natin pinag-uusapan yung Fujiwara effect? So, ito ba ay mangyayari kay Dante at kay Emong?
Yes, yung mga conditions nga natin para sa isang Fujiwara effect ay makikita natin dito sa dalawang bagyo na ito. So, ang Fujiwara effect ay sayaw or parang sayaw ng dalawang bagyo na nagkakaroon ng binary interaction kapag nasa around 1,500 kilometers. Ang layo niyan sa isa't isa, yung kanilang center to center na distance. In this case, nasa around 1,000 kilometers yung kanilang distance. And then, yung isa pa nating condition is dapat halos magkasing lakas sila or hindi sila mahinang system or isang low pressure area. Ito nga ay meron tayong tropical storm Dante at yung kanina naging tropical depression Emong, nagkaroon yan ng rapid intensification o biglang paglakas. Nagkaroon naman yan or naging yung tropical storm Emong, so lumakas din po yan. Pero if makikita nyo dito sa ating satellite image, significantly mas malaking sirkulasyon ng Dante kumpara dito sa Emong. So usually yung mas malaking sirkulasyon or mas malakas na bagyo, yun ang nagdidikta kung saan kikilos yung mas maliit. So ito po ay posibleng sumunod sa pupuntahan ng bagyong Dante. So para siyang iikot sa parang meron siyang center na iikutan. Ito nga ang bagyong Emong ay inaasahan natin ngayon, yan po ay pasubsob pababa. Pero bukas, maaari na yung mag-recurve if makalabas na or if pataas na po. Ito pong bagyong Dante. So yan yung tinatawag nating Fujiwara effect o yung parang sayaw nga ng dalawang bagyo.
So Alvin, kapag nahigop ni Emong si Dante, babalik siya back over the landmass of northern and central Luzon. Tama ba yung nakikita ko dyan sa inyong mapa?
Yes, itong bagyong Emong is meron tayong high chance na maglandfall dito sa area ng Northern Luzon. Sa ngayon niya, yan may pababa. At andito sa may West Philippine Sea, maaari yang mag-recurve pabalik dito sa Northern Luzon. So possible sa Ilocos region, yan po ay tumama habang umakyat po yan at sumusunod dito sa bagyong Dante. If ever, yan po ay hindi humina dito sa area ng Northern Luzon dahil sa interaction niya sa landmass or sa kalupaan, yan po ay posibleng magsama or sumama dito sa bagyong Dante. Yung ating common misconception dyan is pag nagsasama, yung mga bagyo ay lumalakas. So most appropriate na term dyan is mas lumalaki. Kasi nagiging wind field or nagsasama sila ng wind field. So nagkakaroon siya ng parang trough or extension or nagiging trough nung mas malaki yung mas maliit. So magiging isang wind field na lamang siya. Not necessarily lumalakas siya pero ang mas tamang term nga is yung lumalawak yung bagyo natin.
Quick follow-up, Alvin. Does it mean na mas matagal sila magsistay in a smaller area, kumbaga? At kasi parang may push-pull yung dalawa di ba? Parang sumasayaw sila
Yes, ang mas naging affected nito is ang bagyong Emong. Si Dante naman ay kumikilos nga pataas since siya yung mas malaki at naunang lumakas. So yan ay steadily going towards southern Japan. Etong si Emong, ang pinaikot niyan or ang pinabalik niya at pinasunod niya sa kanya. So dahil dyan, sa ngayon, meron na yung direct effect dito sa Northern Luzon, kaya nagtatagal yung direct effect niyan. So, enhanced rainfall or mas marami tayong rainfall na natatanggap, mas madalas din or mas matagal din natin natatanggap yung mga malalakas na hangin na galing kay Emong. So, yun po ang mas nagiging mas delikado dito sa bagyong Emong. Dahil nga, pagbaba niyan, ngayon pa lang nakaka-apekto na yan sa Northern Luzon, pagbaba niyan, makaka-apekto pa rin yun hanggang sa pagbalik at pagtawid nga niyan dito sa ilagang bahagi ng Luzon.
Alvin, aside from itong si Dante pati si Emong, meron din bang isa pang LPA na binabantayan ng Pag-asa as of this moment?
Yes, maliban dito sa dalawang bagyo natin sa loob ng ating Philippine Area of Responsibility, aktibo nga yung ating tinatawag na monsoonal trough. At kung mapapansin nyo, banda dito sa may around 2,300 kilometers east ng southeastern Luzon, meron tayong grupo ng kaulapan. Or ito po ay isang low pressure area na ayon sa Pag-asa ay mataas din ang tsansa na maging bagyo. Pero for now, hindi natin yan nakikitang pumasok sa ating Philippine Area of Responsibility. Yan ay kikilos pa itaas at maaaring lumapit sa ating boundary line pero sa labas lamang nito. Ang magiging implication niyan sa atin, sa ngayon wala pa po yung direktang epekto pero probably by next week, diyan naman magpo-flow yung ating habagat or southwest monsoon. If ever humina yung ating habagat, may possibility rin bumalik. Pero dahil medyo malayo yan, hindi ganun kalakas kagaya nung nakarang weekend yung ating inaasahang pagulan, dulot ng habagat. If ever, yan naman ang humila ng ating habagat.
So Alvin, ano yung forecast natin for the rest of the week? Kasi araw-araw umuulan, even until now, no, napakalakas pa rin ng ulan na nararanasan sa labas. Hanggang weekend na ba yan?
Yes, yung ating mga pagulan mostly ngayon dito sa areas na malayo sa bagyo ay dulot ng habagat or southwest monsoon. Kasama po dyan ang Metro Manila. Meron pa rin tayong mga pabugso-bugsong malalakas na pagulan at kung minsan meron din tayong malalakas na hangin na dulot ng habagat. Hindi lang sa Metro Manila, maging sa karatig lugar nito like Rizal, Cavite, Batangas, and Laguna, Occidental Mindoro, mostly Occidental Mindoro, kasama dyan ang areas ng Zambales at Bataan. Malalakas na pagulan din ang ating aasahan dyan. From habagat, Central Luzon, mostly yung western section na to, including Pampanga, Tarlac, Bulacan, and itong areas ng Nueva Ecija, ito rin areas ng Bicol Region. Pero dito sa Visayas and Mindanao, particularly, mostly maganda na yung panahon natin dyan at nagpapakita naman yung ating araw, pero possible din yung mga scattered at kalat na pag-ulan. Pero dito po sa Northern Luzon, ito yung ating pinag-iingat, mostly yung mga nandito sa western section nito, including Ilocos Region and Cordillera Mountain Ranges, dahil sa direct effect nitong bagyong si Emong. At yun nga, gaya ng binanggit natin kanina, dahil sa kanyang pagbaba at pag-akyat muli, mas nagtatagal siya dito sa West Philippine Sea. Dahil dyan, mas nagtatagal din yung effect niyan dito sa Northern Luzon, particularly nga dito sa western section nito. So, dahil dyan, mas marami tayong natatanggap na pagulan from bagyong Emong. So, doble ingat po tayo.
Masasabi mo na ba, Alvin, kung kailan gaganda ang panahon?
For weekend, if ever makaakyat na ang bagyong Dante at sumunod na itong bagyong Emong, meron kasing chance na humina ang bagyong Emong if magkaroon ng interaction dito sa ating landmass sa Northern Luzon. So, possible na maging kasama na siya ng wind field ng bagyong Dante. If ever makasurvive yan, aakyat din yan, kasama ng bagyong Dante dito sa itaas na bahagi nating bansa. So by weekend, mostly yung habagat natin concentrated na lang sa western section ng northern at central Luzon, yung ating mga pagulan. Mababawasan na yung ating mga pagulan dito sa babang bahagi ng Luzon, particularly ang Metro Manila at Calabarzon area, maging sa Bicol Region and Mimaropa. Pero again, possible pa rin yung ating mga scattered o kalat-kalat na pagulan at mga thunderstorms. Pero hindi na kagaya nitong mga nakaraang araw.
Okay.
Lahat biglang sigh of relief, ano?
Maraming salamat sa iyong paglatag muli ng ating panahon. Alvin Pura, News 5's Weather Specialist. Maraming salamat.
Meantime, Interior and Local Government Secretary John Vic Remulla has apologized over what he called his humorous way of announcing class and work suspensions. Yesterday, a DILG post with Remulla's name on it said, quote, "Mga abangers, may inaabangan ba kayo? Mamaya na, kain muna ako." This was followed by another post with the secretary saying, "Mga abangers, sarap ng bogchi ko. Sa kabusugan ay nakaidlip ng sandali o eto na inaabangan ninyo," which was followed by the announcement of class and work suspension. These posts did not sit well with netizens. In a post today, Remulla said, quote, "Pasensya na, pero hindi na ako magbabago ng ugali." He ended with, "A little humor never hurt anyone." Most netizens believe this is a sorry, not sorry post. And for his part, President Bongbong Marcos defended his Interior Secretary.
People criticize me for the way I speak, but that's the way I speak. That's the way he speaks. As long as he gets the message across, that's what it's for.
The DILG also later announced a suspension of classes tomorrow, Thursday, July 24, in the following provinces. In Regions 1, 2, and CAR, Ilocos Norte, Ilocos Sur, Abra, La Union, Pangasinan, Ifugao, Kalinga, Apayao, Mountain Province, Benguet, Nueva Ecija, Nueva Vizcaya, and Cagayan. In Region 3, classes are also suspended in Bataan, Pampanga, Zambales, Tarlac, and Bulacan, while in Region 4, they include Metro Manila, Batangas, Laguna, Rizal, Cavite, Quezon Province, Oriental Mindoro, Occidental Mindoro, Marinduque, and Palawan. In Region 5 and the Visayas, they also include Albay, Sorsogon, Camarines Sur, Catanduanes, Masbate, Romblon, Antique, and Iloilo. The DILG said work in government offices was also suspended in the said areas except for essential personnel and emergency responders.
We're going to be taking a quick break for now, but coming right up, the PNP chief accepts the fist fight challenge of acting Davao City Mayor Baste Duterte. The country's top cop has even provided a venue and date for the match. Pati oras. The details when the big story returns. Keep it here.
You're watching the big story here on One News. Despite some let-up from torrential rains the last 2 days, many areas remain flooded, some still as high as chest and waist deep. In Cavite, major roads and several barangays in Tansa town are still reeling from flooding. In Noveleta, a major river overflowed and residents parked vehicles along the highway to escape. 3,000 residents remain in evacuation centers. In Las Piñas, it's the same story. Low-lying areas bore the brunt of the flooding, which was also exacerbated by incoming tide from Manila Bay. In Bulacan, the town of Calumpit has been placed under a state of calamity. The town experienced severe flooding with water coming from heavy rains, dam overflow, and the tides. Trapped residents were still being rescued today and were taken to the town's 15 evacuation centers. And despite the flooding woes of many towns and cities, there are those that seem to have addressed this perennial problem. Here in Metro Manila, Marikina and Pasig have been praised for being flood-free. How did these cities do it? We have with us tonight Bryant Wong. He is the head of Pasig City's Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Office. Good evening. Welcome to the big story, Mr. Wong.
Hello po, good evening.
Maybe call you Brian.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Brian, ano ang ginawa ninyo sa Pasig? In the past, Pasig had always been one of those that have inundated by floodwater.
Marami pong activities po talaga and programs na ginawa po sa City Government. Ang hinigpitan po ng mayor lahat ng infrastructure pagdating po sa development. And strict coordination with DPWH for DPWH projects para at least align po lahat ng projects po ng city and ng national government po. So yun po yung partnership po ni Kong Mayor, ni Mayor po and Kong yun po yung ginagawa nila. And to that, IEC po natin, information education campaigns po natin. So syempre, yung preparedness po sa disaster, which is yung, ang pinaka-highlight namin is yung emergency go bags.
Okay.
Emergency.
Go bag? Tama ba?
Yes.
Narinig ko?
Opo.
Okay.
Okay, Brian, just an assessment. We see that there have been evacuations. There have been preemptive evacuation ba ito? And were there areas that were flooded still, although not as severe as before?
Yes, ma'am. Yung lakas po sa flood, na halos ondoy level po yung yung millimeters na binuhos ko per day. Plus yung may mga evacuation po tayo, mga flooded areas po tayo, reaching up to 4 feet, 7 feet sa mga laylayan po natin. Meron po kasi tayo dito sa Santolan na boundary po ng Marikina. Ito po kasi yung ongoing na ginagawang project po ng DPWH din po. So, yun po, after po magawa, by next year, matapos, malaking bagay po yung mangyari dyan na magiging flood-free din po yung area din.
Sorry, Brian, medyo choppy lang yung linya. I understand, nag-iikot ka ngayon. Pwedeng pa shift lang ng konti. And pakiulit yung sinabi mo, you're coordinating with Marikina on a specific project? Tama ba yung narinig
Hindi po,
ko?
it's a DPWH project po siya na involved po ang Marikina and Pasig. So, connected po kasi yun. And yung flooded areas na malalim namin is in Marikina boundary, which is Barangay Santolan. So, doon po, may wall po na binubuo po doon. Pag natapos po yun, hopefully by next year, sabi po sa amin, ay magiging flood-free po yung area. Yun po yung mataas na evacuees po namin ngayon.
Okay. Nasa ilan yung evacuees ninyo from that area, no, sa may Santolan, Pasig?
Sa Santolan po, around 3,000, mga 3,000 plus po na evacuees po yun.
Brian, balikan ko lang yung efforts nga ng Pasig City to address flooding. Kailan pa ba sinimulan yung proyekto na yan para lang mabigyan din yung ibang mga cities ng idea, 'di ba? Kung paano talaga i-address yan? Is it 5 years in the making? Kailan yan nagsimula? At would you know how much yung funding na na-allocate para dyan?
Hindi po kami ganun ka-aware dahil po national project po siya. So, DPWH National po yung may project po doon sa area na yun.
Brian,
Alam po namin with JICA po yan.
Yung pumping station ba to, by any chance? Or
Prevented wall po siya.
wall.
Wall siya, wall. So, they're building a wall and a street doon sa area na yun. And we have the pumping station na, meron na po tayong pumping station po doon sa Santolan, doon sa area na yun.
So Brian, I understand nag-iikot ka nga right now, no? Ano na yung assessment sa Pasig City and how would you compare the response compared to previous years?
We're still learning and we're still improving. Kung ano pa pwedeng ma-improve, sabi nga ni Mayor, lahat po ng kailangang kailangan ayusin pa rin. Hindi naman po kami perfecto, may mga kailangan pa pong gawin at pag-usapan.
Can you share with us, Brian?
It will be tackled soon din po.
Oo, ano yung mga areas for improvement pa?
Lalo po sa tagging po ng evacuation, yun po yung tututukan po namin. May program na yan for 2026 pero we will try to expedite that.
Ito yung gusto ko malaman, Bryant, no? Yung garbage collection ninyo.
Oo
Because
nga.
kausap namin kahapon si MMDA, yung head ng flood department nila, si Mr. Mark Navarro, nabanggit nga niya yung nagbabara dun sa mga pumping stations and waterways. It really causes flooding. Meron ba kayong ginawa dyan sa Pasig, specifically, no, to make sure na maging clear tong mga daluyan ng tubig, mga estero, at pati na rin kung yung pumping station dyan na nabanggit mo?
Opo. Sa lahat naman po pagdating sa basura, hindi naman po talaga perfect na. Pero may programa po ang city government. Daily pong umiikot si Mayor para sa upland kaayusan, para sa mga declogging around the city. So, daily for the past 4 or 5 years, yun na po yung ginagawa niya. Yun yung normal routine niya po. So, ang upland kaayusan, hindi lang naman po declogging. Marami po siyang activities din po. So, ang tingin ko po nakatulong din po to, plus yung preparedness po ng mga barangay po natin.
We understand din na madalas magkaroon ng dredging ang local government ng Pasig. Tama ba ang aming impormasyon?
Declogging po.
Declogging. Declogging ng mga drainage.
Po natin.
Oo.
Okay.
How often do you do that? And talagang ina-anticipate nyo ba na, kasi predictable naman kung kailan ang tag-ulan. So, paki-share rin sa amin.
Program po siya eh. So, yearly, tuloy-tuloy lang po siya. Hindi po siya natatapos talaga.
Okay.
Kasi at the end of the day, nagkakaroon pa po ng, ng mga bara talaga ang mga invernal po natin. Like for example, may mga areas natin na ang nakaka-cause ng baha doon, may basura lang sa inlet. Sa pasukan ng mga drainage natin. Pero yun nga, masipag naman po ang ating engineering na umikot at tanggalin po yung mga basurang yon. At SWAMO naman po ang kumukuha for that.
Oo. Speaking of that, no, Brian, katuwang nun, meron ba kayong waste management na program? Are you doing that differently or more regularly perhaps? Kasi kahapon nga, sabi nung MMDA, no, nananawagan siya sa mga tao na maging disiplinado. Pero mahirap naman maging disiplinado kung maliit lang yung bahay mo, saan mo itatago yung basura kung hindi siya araw-araw kinokolek.
Meron ba kayong materials recovery facility? Oo.
Yes, ma'am. Is under Senro and SWAMO po ngayon. So, meron pong MRF for that. In addition to the waste collection of the private contractor and the city by admin. So, normally, nagdodoble-doble na rin po yung effort. Tulong-tulungan na ba?
How long have you been in your position, Bryant?
I've been with the DRMO dito sa Pasig for 6 years and sa practice po ng DRR sa ibang LGU din, total of 14 years po.
Oh, okay. So in Pasig, have you seen a marked improvement talaga? Because, well, anecdotally, sinasabi nga na talagang malaki ang improvement. Laging Pasig nasa top of the yung mga pinaka-binabaha doon. So, can you share anong nakita mo in the past 5-6 years?
Sa akin po, may factor din po yung previous administration pagdating doon sa learning from Ondoy. So, they put up pumping station and ang sabi nga ni Mayor, ituloy natin yung programa, ayusin natin at improve pa natin. So, yun po yung susi po dito is continuing yung mga nasimulan po before at i-improve po siya. Lalo sa flood control po.
Well, Brian, Pasig City has 30 barangays. Which parts would you say are still vulnerable to flooding and future rains? Kasi patuloy pa rin ang typhoon season sa Pilipinas.
Sa akin, ma'am, ang masasabi ko pa rin, ang affected sa habagat is 15 barangay and almost 27 evacuation centers ang binuo po ng camp management ng CSWD. So, we could say that all the 15 barangays are really affected. But ang tanong nga dyan, gaano ka-severe, diba? Yung effect sa kanya. And ang ginawa kasi namin ngayon, rather than to rescue for rescue operation, which is very minimal, is to encourage preemptive evacuation rather than to rescue.
Okay, so it looks like mahaba pa tong bagyo na ito, dalawang bagyo nga ang binabantayan natin.
Yes, ma'am.
And nag-declare na ng state of emergency ang ibang Metro Manila cities. In your case, may pondo naman kasi mukhang tatagal ang mga evacuees sa evacuation
Yes, ma'am.
centers. Sapat naman, hindi na kailangan mag-declare dyan sa inyo.
Hindi ko pa po masasabi. Right now, nag-uusap po kami ng mayor at ng mga vice mayor at ng mga councilors. Right now, day-to-day po ang assessment po namin.
Okay, so for now, okay pa. At least.
Okay pa po. Yes, ma'am.
And then any other disaster preparedness projects in the pipeline in Pasig City that your constituents can look forward to?
Sa akin, I would like to highlight the yung emergency go bag po namin. Dahil malaking bagay po siya. Natututo yung tao maging prepared pag-evacuation nila, nadadala po nila sa evacuation centers. And syempre, kung binahan naman sila, pwede siyang floating device. So that's one. And syempre yun, di po matatapos sa mga trainings po namin. And we will keep improving.
Okay. Yung go bag na yan, bigay ng LGU. Kayo ang nag-design.
Yes, ma'am. Bigay po yun ng LGU. It's 430,000 pieces for every Pasigueño family.
So one lang
House to
per
house po
family,
siya
Brian?
distributed. One go bag for every Pasigueño family. House-to-house distribution, last year po ginawa yun.
And then do you tell them what to put in, like yung mga importanteng dokumento sa loob ng plastic bag? Hindi kasi minsan nakakaantala yun eh. Kung di ka prepared,
Yes, ma'am.
ayaw mo mag-evacuate muna, di ba?
Yes, ma'am. Pwede po panoorin yung video po doon. May QR code po doon sa sticker, magnet, and handbook. Babasahin lang po nila yun. I-scan lang nila yung QR code, papanoorin nila ano po yung laman ng go bag at ano pong kailangan idagdag. Nandun po lahat ng data na kailangan at paano gamitin yung go bag nila.
And Brian, ang mga residente ba ng Pasig mas responsive na rin ngayon sa mga preemptive evacuation dahil nga naranasan na nila yung effect ng Ondoy?
Yes po. And hindi lang naman po Ondoy. Like Ulysses po and Karina, Ulysses noong 2020, Typhoon Karina last year. And yung series of typhoons. So mas alert po sila ngayon, mas nagko-comply po sila sa LGU pagdating ng preemptive evacuation. Pero yun lang, iwasan lang po natin ang fake news kasi may mga nagpapakalat na may ayuda, may financial assistance, which is wala naman po na in-announce ng LGU na ganun.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing your story. At this point, we'd like to say goodbye to Pasig City Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Office Head, Bryant Wong.
Right, we're just going to pause for another breather, but after that, criticisms pour in for the slight reduction of U.S. tariff on Philippine goods, with many saying it's a bad deal. That and more stories when the Big Story returns. Keep it here on One News.
Welcome back to the Big Story. The first face-to-face meeting between President Bongbong Marcos and his American counterpart, Donald Trump, has yielded the Philippines a slightly reduced tariff rate of 19%. Trump previously slapped Manila with a 17% levy during his so-called Liberation Day on April 2nd. He then made the surprise decision to increase that rate to 20% earlier this month before lowering it by a mere 1 point this Wednesday. U.S. exports in return will not be subjected to any duties. Mr. Marcos has characterized this development as a victory, with Trump even calling him a tough negotiator.
And we do a lot of business with you. It's a lot of income coming in for both groups. But I was surprised to see the kind of numbers. They're very big, and they're going to get bigger under what we're doing and what we're proposing. He's a very tough negotiator. So far, we're not there because he's negotiating too tough. In fact, I used to like him better than I do now. He's too tough. But we'll probably agree to something. But he's strong, a strong negotiator. He loves your country.
Now, 1% might seem like a very small concession. However, when you put it in real terms, it is a significant achievement.
Some senators were weighing in. Presidential sister and Senator Amy Marcos says, and we quote, a mere 1% reduction in tariff rates for Philippine goods while having zero tariffs for U.S. goods certainly does not look like a win for the Philippines. Senator Tito Soto calls Marcos's meeting with Trump a most fruitful and productive visit, which the former Senate president says has direct benefits for the Philippines. Soto's 2022 running mate and also returning Senator Ping Lacson, however, was not happy at all with the tariff cut. He said, "It is the worst insult that a host can throw at his guest. It is time for us to look for other trade partners." Meanwhile, Marcos downplays fears that a U.S.-backed ammunition hub in Subic, Zambales would provoke China. In a briefing after his White House visit, the chief executive said Manila has long been at Beijing's radar. The ammunition factory is part of the country's long-standing strategy under the Self-Reliant Defense Posture Program. Meanwhile, Trump took a subtle jab at Marcos's predecessor, Rodrigo Duterte, for tilting the Philippines toward China before returning to the U.S. under the incumbent.
You had a country that was tilting toward China for a period of time, and I just don't think that would have been good for you. You could deal with China, you should deal with China, but when I got elected, everything changed and they came right back to us.
What we consider part of the modernization of the Philippine military is really as a response to the circumstances that surround the situation around the South China Sea and now what we used to refer to as Asia Pacific, which we have expanded now to the Indo-Pacific. And if we would certainly, like in any kind of military spending, we would wish that it wasn't necessary, but it is. And so that is what we are doing.
And as President Marcos's three-day U.S. visit draws to a close, Washington has announced that it will provide over 3 billion pesos worth of foreign aid to Manila. U.S. State Secretary Marco Rubio said the $60 million assistance package would support energy, maritime, and economic growth programs. The State Department has expressed its intent in working with the U.S. Congress to shell out 825 million pesos, or $15 million. That is to support private sector development in the Luzon Economic Corridor. The funding would be placed in investments such as transport, logistics, energy, and semiconductors. Before his bilateral meeting with Trump, Marcos spoke with Rubio and Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth.
Has President Marcos's charm offensive effectively worked for Trump now that the latter only decreased our tariff rate by a mere point? We discussed this with Mariela Fletcher, National Chair of the National Federation of Filipino-American Associations. Good evening, Mariela. Welcome to The Big Story.
Good evening. Thank you very much for having me.
Yes, Mariela, what's your take on, there are mixed reviews back here on the reduction, the mere 1% reduction in tariff. What's the take? What's your own take?
Okay. Well, first of all, we acknowledge the recent decision by the U.S. government to impose that 19% tariff on goods imported from the Philippines. However, it also sends a mixed signal. While the decrease is a slight concession, the overall rate remains significantly high, potentially affecting, trade flows and the competitiveness of the Philippine exports in the U.S. So this is just the decision is more than just a trade statistics. It will affect jobs, it will affect families and the future of Filipino workers and businesses on both sides of the Pacific.
And if you put that vis-a-vis, Mariela, with the other defense programs that should come to fruition soon, we have that boat repair bay in Palawan, we have this ammunition hub that they're proposing to put up in Subic Bay. Do you feel that we as Filipinos should even feel more shortchanged?
I think there is an economic impact definitely on the Philippines because a tariff is a tax placed on goods coming from another country. So when the U.S. imposes that 19% tariff, that means Philippine products become 19% more expensive for American buyers. So the economic impact of that is really going to be very huge. And you know, on your question, I think there really is going to be so much of impact on the Filipino-Americans in our community here in the U.S.
Plus, we are agreeable to zero tariffs on on American-made cars, wheat and soy products, as well as pharmaceutical goods.
Yes, yes. So this is that's the reason why it really is it's nice, it's good that we got that, but it seems like there is really a mixed signal that is happening right now in between the U.S. and the Philippines.
Well, Mariela, President Trump did describe President Marcos as a tough negotiator. What did you make of that? And was there really little wiggle room to begin with? Or do you think the Philippine government, or Mr. Marcos particularly, could have negotiated better terms?
Well, he could have negotiated better terms, but I do think that the Philippines at this point should now look for other trade partners actively to diversify, what is going on right now, because diversifying the trade does not mean it's just expanding your opportunity.
We're losing you.
I'm sorry.
Mariela, can you still hear us okay?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, I think it's our internet connection.
Yeah.
be us.
Well, we're in the middle of two storms. That's why.
Yes, I understand.
Yeah.
We can hear you.
Yes, you're
Okay.
right. We should consider exploring other markets, and also considering that we are, President Marcos said more than 100 years of relationship with the U.S. We've been a long ally of the U.S. and other countries. Indonesia, for example, has the same tariff rate.
But remember, the Philippines has always been, lagi natin sinasabi, resilient tayo. And I do.
Parang di tayo binibigyan ng halaga kung importante tayong ally at matagal na, hindi ba?
Yes, that is the sentiment, that is the feeling right now. But I do think that when we move forward, we just have to, the U.S. and the Philippines really are committed, if I can say that, committed to constructive negotiation. I do think that it is going to come along very soon. There should be another meeting or a continuous meeting between the two countries.
Mariela, let's backtrack a bit. Heading into the state visit of President Bongbong Marcos to the White House, what were you expecting and what were you hoping to hear?
I was, with the 20% tariff that was put on us earlier, and then with the hope that we would get something much better, just like the other countries. Each and every one of us here, we were expecting to have, a better negotiated tariff. However, the Philippines is not as big as the other countries, if I can say that, just like Japan. Japan is a very big ally and actually stronger economically. Remember, they make cars. Philippines, we have very labor-intensive products. We are not as big as Japan's trade. They do have also a free trade, if I'm not mistaken, a bilateral agreement that they can negotiate every now and then. Unlike the Philippines, we don't even have a free trade agreement with the United States. So they have there is quite a big contrast between the two, between us and also Japan.
But there's also Vietnam and Indonesia. They both managed to negotiate down the tariffs levied on them by the White House. And to think, they're actually a bit more, let's just use the word term, friendly with China, right? And also, speaking of that, President Trump did say, it's okay, pursue your independent policy with China. We're also trying to be better friends with China. Did that surprise you at all?
Yes, of course. But again, let's think more positively. I think the Philippines can diversify their trade by strengthening their ties with their other neighbors. Like you just said that Vietnam, Thailand, and Indonesia. We have to also revisit maybe some of our different bilateral agreements with other countries, maybe like South Korea. So these are things that I think the Philippines can do to diversify this trade.
Well, Mariela, are there steps that
And-
your federation, Mariela, do we still have you? Mariela?
Okay, hinigop na ni Dante o ni...
Na Fujiwara.
Nasa gitna siya, no, Fuji?
Mariela, sorry, we're gonna check that again. Can you hear us?
I know.
Yeah,
I can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, I wanted to ask if there would be any efforts on your part, your federation, to possibly help in advocating for better trade terms, fairer trade terms.
This is our organization may not be in. We would be able to in terms of just making a call to action. I think that would be how I would say it. So we would encourage our elected leaders to support fair trade, if I can say it, fair trade that will uplift working families across the borders. So I would like to also urge the Filipino-Americans to stay informed and support small businesses and continue advocating for economic justice and inclusion. So we do have we should be able to call on our leaders, our community leaders, to do the same. So we have to raise awareness. We have to support Filipino products, if I can say that, to continue to buy lahat ng Philippine made, which we always do here in the U.S. And definitely encourage more diplomacy, not division. As a matter of fact, we have to be more diplomatic in our trade.
Issue, Mariela, confronting the community, Filipino-American community in the U.S. is really immigration, the hardline stance of President Trump. Did you expect President Marcos to raise that, or would that have been suicide?
That is a very touchy topic right now, knowing that last weekend I was in D.C. and there was a cruise ship that, again, have had problems with the cruise ship cruise ship workers. And we are in the process of, as a community, calling on to our embassy, calling on to our leaders to help the Filipino workers, ship workers who are Filipino citizens, not even green card holders. So that is another problem we are facing right now. And yes, could have been discussed. There was nothing in the news that says anything about immigration problems at the moment that is affecting the lives of Filipinos and Filipino-Americans here. Should have been handled. Yes.
I actually checked out your Facebook page before going to air, and at top of your feed is the post about the cruise workers with visas that were canceled. What is your federation doing to help them? Because yesterday we spoke to PCW, another group of Filipinos there in the United States, and they were saying there are things that they can do, but it's really, really hard to petition for these Filipinos who are OFWs and not actually green card holders.
Did you hear us?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. We're back. Only in the Philippines.
Correct.
Yeah. So your question again, please. I'm sorry. I lost you there.
Yes, it was about what your federation can do to help out the OFWs and the cruise ships, which were, of course, we all know that Filipino seafarers make up a huge population of seafarers around the world. Is there something that you can do to help them make their case?
And it's likely it won't be the last.
Right.
It's going to happen again.
It will happen again. It will be here to stay until we are in this kind of an administration. But we are connecting with the embassy, the labor attaché as well, and hopefully be able to connect with the ship owners, because these are Filipino citizens, but at the same time being Filipino Americans here, living here, we cannot just leave them without helping them. So in NAFA, we have 14 regions all across the United States, and most especially like this one is it happened in Virginia, which is our capital region. We are putting, coming together and looking at talking to lawyers, giving them access if we can, and collaborating with other Filipino-American organizations to help out the ship workers, the cruise line workers.
What can the ship company or the cruise line company do to help them?
Well, I think they got their jobs because of they applied to the ship owners, right, or the cruise line. So that is what I believe should happen. They should come in and take a look at what's going on with their workers. Although we cannot just, as I said earlier, just leave them behind and do nothing about it.
Well, Mariela, in terms of immigration, the bulk of undocumented Filipino immigrants are mostly in California. Do you have reports on how they're being treated? And the Philippine government has encouraged them to reach out for assistance with embassies and consulates. How effective has that been, based on what you know?
Based on what I know, well, for example, I am here in Washington, the state of Washington, which is the other Washington. We have about 10 Filipinos detained in our Tacoma Detention Center. And this is also happening in different states at the moment. There is, and most of them are green card holders. When you are a green card holder, you are still a Filipino citizen. So there is the Vienna Treaty, wherein that says that when anything happens to a Filipino, for any citizen, Filipino citizen, for example, they do have the right to connect with the embassy so that the embassy can give them legal advice or maybe give them a pro bono lawyer, make sure that they're okay. So the Philippine embassy in my jurisdiction right now, which is the consulate office in San Francisco, have been helping our kababayans who are actually detained, and we have successfully already 2 or 3 of them have already been released, while the others are still being worked on by our representative here and also and lawyers. The problem is wala silang masyadong pera para kumuha ng abogado. So this is where we as a community again come together and raise money so they could pay for an attorney. It is going to be here. It'll be here to stay, I believe so.
Is there any commonality among all those that are detained or arrested? Anong common wala?
They're all different. But if you are a green card holder, you for example coming back from the Philippines, you get detained. There is a reason why. Okay, could be that you had a conviction before, and meron kang kaso, as I said. The thing is, they've been so looking for anything and everything, and at the same time. Sometimes there's no reason. Okay. They do have, according to what I've read, they do have a quota per day to come up with so many.
Green card holders are can be arrested without cause.
Yeah. Yes, they can be arrested, but they really should. Kailangan malinis ang record nila. So one of our lawyer friends truly advised us, if you think you had something before in the past, you might as well get yourself screened by an attorney before traveling. And this is what we keep saying. You want to travel back to the Philippines, make sure that when you're coming back, malinis ang records niyo. It also can happen to you as citizens. And it is happening to you as citizens because of moving violations. You have an infraction. Yun lang. One of my friend actually it happened that way in San Francisco, and I was truly shocked to hear that over a week ago. So we don't know. We are always I feel scared. I travel a lot and I go home to the Philippines every year, and this time I keep saying maybe I should put it off for a little while and until maybe 2 or 3 years. But Yeah, it's better to have yourselves screened first before traveling outside of the U.S. if you are a Filipino green card holder or a U.S. citizen,
We will
naturalized.
continue to coordinate with your organization and monitor the situation. We thank you so much for your time. That
Okay,
was
thank you so
Mariela
much, lady.
Fletcher.
Thank you.
And for our big picture tonight, it's the country's top cop accepting the fistfight challenge of former President Digong's son. PNP Chief General Nicolas Torre III has agreed to the dare of acting Davao City Mayor Baste Duterte. Torre proposed a 12-round boxing match this Sunday at 9 a.m. at the Smart Araneta Coliseum. And he wants the match to have tickets so that people will pay, and proceeds of which will go to victims of severe tropical storm Krising and the Habagat. In a recent podcast episode, Duterte challenged Torre to a fistfight, claiming that the PNP chief is only talking and acting boldly because of his position.
Was he joking or was that a serious dare?
I felt like it kind of became serious because names and dates were...
So
hindi
where
na
will
lang
you
siya-
be on Sunday?
Well, hopefully sleeping because Alvin said it's gonna be rainy. But if this is tuloy,
You'll be
punta
there?
akong Cubao. Ikaw, di ba? Once in a lifetime.
Ibo-broadcast naman, manonood na lang ako.
O chinek ko bakante yung Araneta ng 9 a.m. on Sunday.
Talaga?
So pwede.
Walang
There's a
game,
concert
walang-
at 6 p.m. but they're free in the morning. So
Okay, well, we still have a
So,
few days to make it happen.
Who are you rooting for?
mahirap na.
Alam ko na.
The next
Let's ask
Sige,
the next
sige.
guys.
Okay, let's ask the
Play-by-play peeps,
Yes.
they're already standing by, and I know they're listening to us.
And that's it for the big story this midweek. Thanks so much for watching.
We are One News, all sides, all the time.
We'll be back here tomorrow at 7:30 p.m. Have a good night, everyone.